saying yes to everything, right? Exactly. So many mistakes that PMs tend to make early in their careers. Great. So thank you for your response, folks. We'll dive deeper into your comments in the session and speak about some common mistakes that product managers make early in their careers. But before we begin, we would love to know you all a little more. So here's a poll for the same. How would you describe yourself? If you're a college student, if you're an aspiring product manager with less than 3 years, more than 3 years of experience in a different role, if you're an APM or a PM with less than 3 years of experience or more than 3 years of experience, or other if you're not in a production. Most of you here are college students. Great. All right. Thanks for voting, everyone. Just one more poll before we kick off with our session. We would love to know, where did you learn about the session? Was it via email, social media ads, LinkedIn posts? I hope the poll is visible. Yeah. So was it via email, social media ads, LinkedIn post, Twitter, or other? Gee, it seems like most of you learned about the session via social media ads. Perfect. Thank you once again for voting. I wouldn't take a lot of time now. The idea behind hosting this session is to help you all identify and avoid some common mistakes that product managers tend to make early in their careers. And to lead this conversation today, we have with us Himanshu Shukla, a product leader who has worked with organizations like Yatra, Flipkart, Milk Basket, and Oyo. He has around 5 years of experience of working in the e-commerce domain and is currently building Zomato. He finds joy in mentoring people and actively guiding people for product and strategy roles. Welcome, Himanshu. The session will be moderated by Aditya Behre, who's been building product at Upraise since the last 3 years and is our in-house tutor influencer. So over to you now, Aditya and Himanshu. I'm pretty sure everybody is going to love this session.
All right. Thank you so much, Aris. Good morning to everyone and good morning to Himanshu. Thank you so much for joining in with us. I'm going to be like a swimming instructor and on the first day throw you in the deep end of the pool and start with putting you on the hot spot. Himanshu, what were some mistakes that you made early in your career?
Before even going here, thank you guys for hosting me here. It's good to see so many new folks joining in. Around 80 folks are there in the call now. And with the very first question which you guys I could see a lot of people know the mistakes. The first thing about mistake as a PM is you don't even know in initial years of your career. So good to see people are so aware about the mistakes which they might or they will commit. So that's the half thing done for all of them. I think coming back to your question, can you repeat it again, Aditya?
Yes. What were some of the mistakes that you made early in your career?
One of the biggest mistakes which I did was understanding I'm a manager. So whenever you attach a word manager to a product manager, back in those days, like 15, 16, and not of all these good content was available, I was believing myself as a manager that I'll be roaming around and saying things to people and they will do it for me. And within 3 or 6 months, I realized, boss, I'm just a manager for the sake of it. So product manager is not a product manager. It's kind of a product facilitator. I would say product coach, because product management is not an individual game. It's a team sport. Your engineers, your designers, your management team, your leadership team, everybody comes together. They figure out certain problems. They rally together to form a solution and then make it happen. And if it doesn't happen, I would say the required way, they all think upon it and consider what has went wrong, what should have done better. It's a sport, team sport. So considering it's an individual game, and I'll be the only one who needs to think about everything, was the biggest mistake I did at that point of time. Another thing which branches out from this conversation only is try to involve your team early in any kind of problem situations you have. So initially what I did was, in the very first stint when I was in Yatra, I created 20-page PRD. I think in 2 days or something, I created 20-page PRD and came up to my team and said, boss, read this out and make this product for me. And let me tell you what happened next. I think next day or something in a stand-up, I asked somebody read that PRD or not. I understood from their questions and all, nobody read it. Then I went to CEO as a complainer. Yaar, kisi ne meri PRD nahi padhi. Kya karu main? So there are two things which is learning from here. Don't be a complainer. The second very important thing is, when you are up to a certain challenge, up to a certain problem, which is aligned by your leadership team, aligned by your team and your company, you need to start about that problem very early in the product life cycle with all your team members, making them part of it. As you are someone who is thinking about the solution, they can also contribute a lot to it. And let me tell you, with my experience, a lot of good products are created by engineers or by designers, and product just figure out the right way to do that thing. Strategically think about what is the next step for that thing. So involve your team early in the cycle is really important to get things done. Another thing which I was talking here, I was being a complainer. Specifically talking about startup ecosystem, Aditya, what happens is there's no defined life cycle of product. There's no defined things which you need to do to make a product work. So a lot of times you start with certain things, something will end. When you are in a very early stage startups, a lot of things will not even ship. So you need to be very open about it. A lot of things cannot ship at that point of time. So just be really open, figure out ways. And when one of the very important thing happens is, I would say, whenever product manager is working with a certain team, engineering managers mostly are experienced folks. Like product manager can be a 2-3 years experience in the complete career of theirs, and engineering managers will be around 5-6 years, 4-5 years now. So they are definitely more senior than you. So you need to understand to form a good relationship with those folks. Make everything work. So that is really important. Engineers, designers, everybody building rapport with all of them is really important to do all this thing. I'm just figuring out there are other things also. Should I go on, Aditya?
No, go for it. Yeah.
Other important things which people miss out early is prioritization skills. When you are a new PM, you'll come to a project, you'll see a lot of things here. I need to fix this, that, and there'll be multiple teams you'll be interacting with, sales, marketing, and all. Everybody will say, yeah, you have to solve this and that. So you'll have a huge laundry list of things. But here is the most grave mistake happens. You start solving it one by one by one. You need to understand product managers as the person who solve the problems for the consumer, for the company, and align it with the North Star metric of the company as well. So every task which you are doing has to be aligned with the company's goals and initiatives. Of course, there will be 50-60 things which a product manager can do, but you need to figure out one thing which can give multiplier effects. So fixing a button from add now to the plus thing will be a okay thing to do, but something would have a 5x, 6x impact. Because at any point of time in startup, only talking about startup perspective, any point of time in startup, there'll be a lot more things to do, and you need to figure out some big thing which you can change the dimensions of the company. So that is really important. There are other things as well, Aditya, but I don't want to sound like a monologue here, so you should
Yeah.
intercept me.
This was like a blast from the past. I was remembering like my first few months in product management, and not only have I made each of these mistakes, but I have also almost been on the verge of crying once because of the amount of prioritization that I've had to do, and like my document is not being read by anyone, and so on and so on. So I think I can totally relate to what you're saying. You started off by saying that early in your career you and this is around 2015, 2016, that you noticed some of yourself making some of these mistakes.
Yes.
Now there are APMs working with you, and like life has evolved. You mentioned that good resources are available now. So between then and now, have the nature of mistakes changed? Do you see newer APMs committing different mistakes now?
Not much has changed, but definitely the kind of people which I am interacting with these days, people are way smarter than I was. People are way prepared. So they were, so at that point of time there were less resources. I read only one book at that point of, that was inspired by Marty Gagan, that was available, and there was a typical three Venn diagram which was available: product, business, technology, intersection of PM. That thing is available. Now when I see there are certain APMs which are really fast, getting they have they have taken getting things done in a really heartfelt manner. They're doing it so fast, but they're not zooming out and seeing the picture, bigger picture, what kind of impact they're creating. So in terms of execution, there's a lot more smartness in the market at this point of time. People are way smart. APMs are really smart at that point, but they are missing the bigger picture. That's a very common trend which I'm seeing. Sometimes you just need to reflect, pause, zoom out, and see where are you heading, where is your product heading. So APMs are like, tell me what to do. I'll tell them this thing, and they'll get it done. But they don't understand at a certain point of time things change. Competitive landscape might change. So certain I need to revisit your statement or your problem statement. So that is from the strategical perspective, that is kind of still not there. But I think over a period of time, once PMs have that domain understanding, that kind of brush with strategic decision making things, they can become better. But I believe first 2 to 3 years is more about execution, more about understanding what kind of obstacles are there, being very scrappy and getting things done. So they should leave strategic part of it for first to regulate. It shouldn't be like that on the very first or second thing they are come with a strategic roadmap for the product. I don't want them. It will be a truly distracting thing.
Right. So we spoke of some of these mistakes, and there is also an impact associated with the mistake, right? Like you commit the mistake and there is a certain cost. There's a cost to the company, and then there is a cost to the individual. So what happens? Like do people get fired for committing these mistakes? What ends up happening in the company?
Yeah, people get fired, but that's very rare. So see, all the CEOs, all the founders are really smart. You're not going to get $1 million mistake worthy product on the very first day or second day. You have to show your mettle, you have to bring trust around people, then only you'll get to that level to do that kind of mistakes. So it rarely happens somebody has put that kind of trust on a certain people who has shown metal product by product and failed on certain front. Because I told you earlier, it's a team sport. If I'm going to do 100 million thing or something like that, of course my CEO knows, of course my other leaders know, and they will definitely know what I'm going to do next. So that will be a company failure, not a product management failure at that point of time. So it rarely happens that some APM will get a really thing and company doesn't know they're going to commit that kind of thing. It's a very rare situation. So, but what kind of mistakes can happen is so certain times what happened is you tend to build a tunnel vision over a period of time. You're talking to your engineers, you might see problems in a different way. When you talk to your designers, you might see the problems in a different manner. Certain times what happened is product manager get aligned to a certain team in a more, I would say, more gravitated toward a certain team, and they start seeing things from the customer perspective. So that creates a lot of mistakes.
Can you expand on this a little more? I think there's an example there that is brewing in your head. I would love to know what triggered you to say that.
So what can happen is that once you start having lunch with engineering team for 30, 40 days, you might try to see, yeah, this has a lot of effort. You start thinking from from the empathy point of view, see, yeah, it will take a lot of effort. It will not worth it and those kind of things. And then your thinking might tend to gravitate towards thinking, yeah, it's not worth it, that thing, worth that effort. Once you leave that shoe, once you leave that particular room, you need to figure out key from the customer lens whether it's going to be a really good effort, whether it's going to be a very small effort, if it's changing the life of the customer, and if it's
Yeah.
aligned with your product goals, that's worth it. That it's worth to do. So don't get aligned to a particular team, because every team has a different role to play in those things. The role
Right.
of product manager is to make them understand the company goals, make them understand the consumer centricity which you bring to the table, and make sure it delivers.
That is very interesting. I think the point that you are trying to bring out is that product managers that talk to a particular team for too long,
Yeah,
empathize too much, and optimize for the team versus optimizing for the end customer or the business needs, whichever you're trying to optimize for. It just
I've seen it multiple times. So just any of the folks who is early PM here, start going to lunch with your business teams and sales team. You'll see your product in a different lens altogether. So that is why just plan your lunch every day with different teams, so that you have multiple perspectives.
love it. Plan your lunch should be one of the things that people take away. So like it's easier to for a few years to pass by, and then for you to be able to reflect back and realize that, hey, these were some of the mistakes that I'm making. But if I'm in the moment, if I'm in the zone, it's not as easy or straightforward to catch myself making the mistake, change course, change direction, then fix it. So couple of questions here. First, how can one catch themselves from committing a mistake? And second, how do I change my course once I know that I'm committing a mistake?
So there are three type of mistakes which I can see here. One is the basic human error type of things. You just miss certain use cases. Very, 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 I would say, a very obvious use case that you shouldn't do. Malab, that's
Mhm.
definitely a no-no thing. You need to deep dive more into it and figure out all the use cases possible. Some kind
Okay.
of edge cases you can definitely miss. If definitely depend on how much time your company gives to build a certain product. Totally relation to that. There are other two type of mistake. It is strategic mistake. Strategic mistake, when I say, is every decision of yours or every product which you are building has to be aligned with company's goals, which you are doing. So for example, if a North Star metric of OYO is increasing the number of rooms month on month, and you are part of a supply product team, you need to figure out what is making supply product team achieve that goal of the OYO for that
Hmm.
thing. That is important. Third, very, very bad mistake, which could be a mindset mistake. Certain times you're not in the right mindset of the company. So for example, there are different type of companies. I've not worked in MNCs as a product manager, but I've seen early stage startups and I've seen mid stage startups, and all those kind of mindset is totally different. You need to imbibe the mindset of the company. There could be
Hmm.
company who were in a competitive landscape really early. They could change their, I would say, strategic decisions day on day basis. So
Hmm.
don't get irritated by things. You just need to see from that particular lens, from the founder's lens.
Yeah.
Okay, this is change. So this is also the mistake of the founder's side. They have to lead by context, not just by ordering the PM folks. You need to do this and that. But at certain point of time when things are really fast and something, I believe not every mistake can be explained. So you need to be well connected in the organization to understand the context out of it. And that is
Hmm.
why understanding your domain, understanding your competitions, understanding what's happening outside something will, which that gives product managers a lot of leverage.
Hmm.
So just try to understand how a product manager becomes a really good product manager. It's all about decision making, nothing else. How
Hmm.
you can shape up your decision making? Of course, knowing about your industry, domain, consumer, the 60%, 50% part of it. Let me tell you frankly.
Yeah.
50% is outside your company. That's competition. What's competition thinking? How's the landscape changing? So for
Yeah.
example, when Geo came into the picture, uh, internet penetration skyrocketed for all of them. Nobody
Yeah.
nobody knows the reason of the growth. Certain point of time they understand, acha, Geo happened. That is why.
Yeah.
A lot of inflection point happens in the industry. So you need to figure out if Elon Musk is going to do certain things in certain industry, maybe something's changed. YouTube is coming with that tech. Maybe something will change. So you need to figure out those inflection points. And
Yeah.
based of that, you will get to know that what needs to be done, what not to be done.
Right.
So
So
strategy is very important.
right. So we spoke of mistakes and we said that three types of mistakes. There are human errors, which one should try and avoid as much as possible. Then there are strategy mistakes, and then there are mindset mistakes where there is it's not congruent. The mindset of the individual and the mindset of the organization are not congruent to each other. And to prevent some of these mistakes, good decision making and an understanding of competition, industry, etc., are required, and one over a period of time keeps building these competencies and hence sort of gets better in the art of product management. um, if I've just going back to the original question, so if I've caught myself making a mistake, how do I change course? Do I change it within this project itself, or do I do it like, for the next one? I already know that I've committed this mistake. Should I continue going down that path now? Should I change the course and tell everyone that, hey, I've made a mistake, and stop the work from proceeding further? What should be my course of action here?
See, other the product manager needs to be बेशर्म. देखो यार, whenever you got to know about the mistake, don't need to give a fuck about some cost. With anything building on that mistake is going to become another mountain for you to crack. So whenever you figure out you have done a mistake, just accept it and move forward. And please don't think about sunk cost. Just stop it right away and course correct yourself. How do you do it? See, alignment sort of thing, you can align with your company goals and all, you can figure out. Human errors and all, you have to figure out yourself. You have to keep visiting again. Maybe, so that is why it's important to show your product or your spec early to the teams. You will figure out a lot of new things. There's this particular use case, I'm not thinking from this point of view. So that is why multiple eyes into your doc, multiple eyes into your thought process is something which helps you gauge it early as possible. On the very first day you're showing it to CEO, you might not have a good meeting with her.
Got it. So one of the things that I've noticed is young folks in the team, some of them are not very comfortable to be able to go out and reach out for help. Sometimes whenever it is their first project, there is this tendency to be like, oh, I've been given this, or as your first mistake that you spoke of, I am the manager, I need to be able to think this through. And so they are not willing to share early because they want to feel good about all the thought process that they have contributed, and that also leads to mistakes. So what can one try to imbibe in terms of your mindset to be able to be open, asking for questions, asking for suggestions, feedback within the organization? How much of it is the organization, the product culture, and how much of it is the onus of the individual?
Yeah, Aditya, it's a cultural thing, by the way. It's also a personal thing on a person to person level. It's also a cultural thing, how the culture is set up in your organization. So what happens is people understand once someone has become a product manager, they know everything. You know nothing, buddy. If you've joined a new company, you have to keep on asking 150 questions and all the time. So it's also depends on the culture. I've seen companies where CEO also says the same thing. I don't know. Till today, whatever I know is right, but tomorrow it might be proven wrong also. So if you're coming from that particular culture, you are appreciated for being right in that moment only. That is the thing. But don't take the baggage of you're a product manager and you should know everything. You will not know everything. Maybe you have got KT for 3 months, being APM from certain other folks in the company. Still, you will not have that kind of knowledge which other people will have. See, we shouldn't underestimate the people who are there in the company for a longer duration. They know everything. They have seen multiple curveballs in their careers. So please just understand this thing. You know nothing, and maybe on the day 100 also you will know nothing about certain things and all. Be open about it. The good thing for product manager is to be curious. So for example, I would expect some people who join in other domains to understand about the complete company in 2 years. Just giving a random numbers to product managers to know completely about the company in 6 months, because by nature you need to be curious. You need to read every doc available. Just don't do it in your usual work time. Is not, you won't be able to give your product deliverables, but by nature you should be curious. You should be able to understand everything what's going on. So don't get bogged down by this label called product manager. You are just I would say product assistant or analyst in early phase of your career. You're just a worker, buddy, product worker, I would say. You're just a very small part of your team. You need support of your team to become a product manager someday, maybe.
Yeah.
I still consider myself as a product worker. I don't know if I'm a manager. I'm able to deliver that thing which I'm supposed to.
Hmm. So you mentioned curiosity, and it seems like you're hinting that that is one of the key skills that are required, which it's a keystone skill which prevents some of the mistakes downstream. What are some other skills that are important to have as a product manager?
Important things. See, one of the important things apart from curiosity, well, curiosity is one of the important. It's an inherent thing. Another thing is you need to be really scrappy the way you work. So it's important in early part of your career. Also, it's also important in the later part of your careers. So the thing is, and good with people. The third very important thing is being scrappy. Is whenever you starting with a certain problem statement or something, there will be multiple ways to do that particular thing. So since you are a product manager, you're not supposed to solve everything from the tech point of view. A simple
Yeah.
FAQ document for your customer support team might work in certain
Yeah.
scenarios. You're not going to wait 1 month so that you release a new chat support system, then a particular problem will be solved. You need to figure out the problem needs to be solved for the consumer, problem needs to be solved for your business. So let's just not get stuck in a particular route altogether.
Hmm.
So being scrappy means in a certain other manner, whenever certain point of time you get stuck at certain, like you might need certain analysis and all those kind of things. Being scrappy is you are jack of all trades. You know ways to figure out all the things. So one is in sort of information, one is innovation in terms of what kind of product you're going to build. That is really important. Third is why I keep on mentioning good with people, good with multiple team is key. At the end of the day, if you are a product manager and calling your team at 2 a.m. and they're not picking your call, you're a bad product manager. You need to be the most loved person in the company, a most scrappy person. Like people should reach out to you at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever something relevant has fut out in the company, and
Yeah.
you should have some ways to figure out how to fix those problems. So you should be, well, you shouldn't be selfish in that way. You need to make friendship with engineering folks to do that thing. But that's the kind of relationship which builds over a period of time. People
Hmm.
should trust you. People should trust your decision. Over a period of time, people shouldn't read your PRD.
Hmm.
Maybe they don't. Maybe the CEO doesn't need your PRD for that. That kind of
Hmm.
trust build relationships you have built over a period of time. So goal with people, understand them, be very empathetic to them. Certain point of time there might be a genuine tech constraint which you need, because you need to manage the leadership as well. So you need to pass on that empathy thing to the leadership also. This is not possible. You have to take the stand multiple times to say
Hmm.
no to leadership also. My team can't do this thing. So those are the things are really important. If you can't
Right.
take stand for your team, I think you should be a product manager.
Love it. So we started off with curiosity. We mentioned being scrappy, being able to be good with people, and things like those. So in my head, this sort of maps out to skills like execution, communication, product sense, understanding technical enough. A lot of times, people actually have a question in their minds as to, do I actually have these skills? I know a little bit of it, but is it good enough? What does good enough mean? Am I there yet? How do other PMs compare? So at Appraised, we help people get into product management. So one of the things that we had done very early was to try and put an end to some of these self doubts and self questions that a lot of people have. So we have done this thing called the KYS test, Know Yourself. You go in and there are cases, there are scenarios given. You answer a few questions and you can within an hour or so you can discover how you stand, where you stand with regards to your skills in each of these, and how does it compare to other product managers who are out there. So once you have a sense of that, you are also probably getting a understanding of what are some mistakes that you might potentially make, and then now that you are armed with this information, you are much more likely to prevent them and prevent all the negative impact as a result of doing some of these mistakes. So thank you so much for sharing that. We have a couple of other questions. Have you noticed some mistakes that poor performers make consistently? Or have you noticed some mistakes that good performers or excellent performers never make? So I'm talking about the extremes here. Really bad product managers who probably shouldn't even be product managers. What are some mistakes that are seen there? Like really good product managers, what are some things that they don't do ever?
Yeah. I have to go really basic on this question because I have seen it happening last 1 year and all with certain folks. So what happens is early PMs, how do they become bad is consistently. So the lot of meetings which happen, and obviously product manager job is not easy. You have to retain a context from multiple meetings and have to deliver things and all. Obviously it could be a little overwhelming in initial, but you need to make tools to overwhelm that thing. You need to make meeting notes, you need to figure out what has to be done, needs to be
Yeah,
delivered. So all these basic things, creating meeting note, passing it on to your teams,
yeah,
making sure whatever is communicated you have absorbed, all those kind of things are really important. If you're consistently forgetting those things, like
yeah,
basics, obviously you're a new PM, but that is what your job is. You need to
yeah,
figure out the ways to do that thing. And not understanding the gravity of the mistake is also important. So for example, if you are in a consumer facing business like a Zomato, Swiggy, or something like that, every small mistake is tarnishing your brand in a
yeah,
certain way. So you need to understand the gravity of that mistake and move it forward. That might not be visible for the customer in a single go or something, but somewhere down the line, some consumers might be able to feel some kind of pinch from that particular thing. So
yeah,
understanding. So initially what happens is initial days PMs understand, okay, I've done, it's a very small change. Like if this could be fixed in a 2 minute by engineer, it's a very small mistake. It doesn't matter. The kind
right,
of effort is not equal to the kind of damage it can do. So that is the thing. I have seen people not maintaining meeting note is one of the I would say
yeah,
grave mistakes in
yeah.
initial. You can't retain things, buddy.
Yeah,
So
I think being really messy with your calendar or your to-do list is also one of the things that I would probably add up there. Uh, I don't think one can become a good product manager without being organized oneself first
yeah.
with your time. Yeah,
So you need to create your playbooks. Like so, initially I used to also face all these kind of issues. I created a playbook for myself. Here, so for example, everybody retains different information in different manner. Somebody retains numeric information in a far better manner than other folks do. So you need to create your playbook, what works for us. Don't come up with a framework which works for everyone else. Figure out a playbook. Another very important thing is build trust. Build trust with the people you are working with. By trust, what I mean is you need to show that kind of trust to your other folks so that you are given more work, you are giving more responsibilities in that particular front. So for example, in initial days, somebody has got some very small work and they are not able to deliver it in the timeline, or they are not able to communicate the timeline changes which has happened. So
hmm.
that tarnishes the trust.
Hmm.
If you're really good with communication to your stakeholders, like this has happened, this is expected to deliver over here, now
Yeah,
this will be delivered over there. The communication management is really important, the stakeholder management. And that's the toughest part for the new ones. So like product managers will come and see here, why the hell I'm supposed to tell this information to the sales team or a business team? Because they might not have the context of the bigger picture.
yeah,
So communication is really, really important. And a lot of people fail on that front. A lot of people fail on that front, initial level.
right. So the mistake that bad
Yeah.
performers make is not having basic notes, and the
Mm.
mistakes that the top performers avoid is they actually don't wait, they build trust actively. They have a context of the bigger picture and they're able to understand how some of these things are going to tie back, what is the impact of doing some of these things. One question which is slightly outside the realm of our discussion a little. um, are there certain things which are like, while I got exposed to product management, I read a lot of material that was built for Silicon Valley. And while I see a lot of transferable nature of the information, I was wondering if you've been able to see certain things which are probably not as applicable, or some mistakes that are uniquely Indian because of the way we have grown up or because of the way we have educated ourselves. Are there some mistakes that happen specifically in India?
Yeah. First of all, don't read inspired book. I did a great mistake. We don't do product management like that. It's not, and don't read SVPG blogs. We don't do it. It's a good Bible. It's a good thing, but we don't do it that way here. Uh, so, as you mentioned, a lot of things changes in the. I think one of the thing is कि as an Indian, we always like to work as an employer. मतलब, I don't know. मतलब, maybe saying a really bad statement, but we like to work as an employer कि यार हमको जो काम मिला हमने वो करके दे दिया. The thing which is really whenever I've interacted with folks from Silicon Valley and the people who are working with the likes of Facebook and Google, the founder mindset is quite imbibed over there. Like
Yeah.
once they have ownership of certain things, they will deliver it, and after that particular project, they will keep on getting into other things which are related to that. The ownership
Yeah.
mindset, the founder mindset is really strong here. uh, in my career in 6 7 years, the product managers with founder mindset, I've seen it 10 20% only. People are just care about their domain, and once they're
Yeah.
done with that, they're okay with that. You need to figure out the other things which are going on and all, how other ways you can contribute to that company. So that founder mindset is really strong over there, and it's improving here. It's improving here, and other thing also depends on the company's culture, how you motivate
Yeah.
those things. So people
Yeah.
always try to become that person who is rewarded in the company for that particular action. So more you
Right.
rewarded in your company for being a founder mindset or adding value in different other ways, people will strive to become that person. So that is really important.
Got it. I think this is a great segue into a quick rapid fire. You've been talking about some of these mistakes. I've been writing them down. You mentioned meeting notes. I've been writing out my meeting notes here. So I'll definitely allow you a chance to summarize, and I'll add a little bit of my own commentary to it. But before that, let's get into rapid fire. So you mentioned that product culture is important. So quick answers from you, as Karan Johar would say, rapid and full of fire. Flipkart, Oyo, or Zomato, which has the better product culture?
Zomato, always praise your current company. But
Okay.
anyways, I'm much mature now. At Flipkart point of view, I was really early in my career, so I believe I am delivering a lot more valuable things here.
Got it. Engineers or designers, who is the easier stakeholder to work with?
Both are easier, but also depends on the projects, how heavy lifting is for each one of them.
A book or a list of books that you would not recommend young APMs to read?
List of books. Don't read all these work-life balance sort of books here. Somebody messaged me that day कि यार I'm figuring out a PM job where I could only work for 6 7 hours a day. मैंने कहा not possible buddy. मतलब not possible at least in startup ecosystem. Can't
Yeah.
comment for MNCs. Don't read all these work-life balance books, all these Buddhas. Don't go for all these kind of vacations and all. Please. Just give your life to product management in initial years.
Love it. Love it. What is the fastest path to becoming a product manager if you're not one already?
Contributing like one in your current company and then growing up to become one. Not by going to MBA, which I did.
Nice. What are the top three people that are must follow on social media?
Musk, Shreyas Doshi, Lenny, and Elon Musk. Kunal
Okay.
Shah also. Kunal Shah is really good.
Got it. Thank you so much, Himanshu. I think by scribbling out a bunch of things, I've realized that there are five key broad mistakes that you've spoken of. First is sort of thinking of yourself as the manager, or I am the thinker, I'm going to be contributing here. That is a mistake. It is a team sport. Number two is not involving people early enough in the project. I think that leads to friction and lack of ownership, and then it is no longer a team sport. So that is mistake number two, not involving people early enough. Number three is being a complainer, going out and constantly cribbing that this is not happening, that is not happening, etc. Um, the it's probably spews negativity in the team, and you're not really taking ownership, pushing the needle yourself. You're going and complaining ahead. Number four is having a little bit of a rigid mindset or not being open enough, curiously going out and learning from different places, different sources. And number five is prioritization, or rather the lack of it, either doing things in a sequence or prioritizing low impact things which are not strategic enough, which are not adding enough value, which are not, you're not able to understand the full impact of something. So those are some of the mistakes that I could see. I loved, two things that you spoke of. First, plan your lunch. I think I'm going to steal that. I'm also going to plan my lunch. I don't. Some of the mistakes that you've spoken of, I've definitely done them, and I was able to spot myself doing them recently. So plan your lunch is definitely something that I'm gonna steal. And second thing that I loved that you said was being the most loved person in a team. So I think if people start thinking of that as a KPI or as a thing that they should get better at, I think automatically a lot of things, a lot of these mistakes that we spoke of would get
And
better.
there's a flip side of it, loved one. You could be the the person who irritate most the team also. That can also happen. But
Yes.
Adit, loved your summary skills here. God, I don't know if I've said all these cool things. I was just blabbering things, and you made it sound so cool and so PM Gyan specific. Good skills, man.
So we are
Guys, you need to have
actually.
these kind of meeting note skill to become successful in your PM career.
So if you want to learn how to make these meeting notes, please join CAP. I conduct some of these sessions internally as well. So just a little bit of a plug about that. Exploreappraised.co. I also spoke a little bit about the KYS test skills that are required to be able to perform really well on the job. You can go and test yourself within an hour instead of having to message everyone on LinkedIn trying to figure it out, etc. Take a test, simple 1 hour. You will know how you are, where you stand, and what you need to do next. I think that's about it from our side. Himanshu, any closing notes?
Yeah, thank you so much, Himanshu and Aditya. It was a super engaging session. I'm aware that the audience has a lot of questions. But before we move on to the Q&A session, we would love to hear the thoughts of our attendees.
Aris. I think Adit was asking about some closing notes. Sorry for interrupting you.
Oops.
Yeah. Adit loved it, yeah. I think it was a very free-flowing conversation. I didn't plan anything. I was just thinking, let's have a very open conversation with a product colleague. So a lot of time what happens is by saying certain things and all, your understanding and your thinking also evolves. So I've got that kind of feeling in this conversation. And I will definitely ask for your meeting notes, which you can share. So even I will reflect on those things. So good one, and good to see 80, close to 80 folks over here who was listening to us, and maybe that could create some kind of positive impact in their PM journey. Glad to do that thing.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Aris, over to you.
Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. But before we move on to the Q&A session, we would love to hear the thoughts of our audience on today's presentation. Here's a poll for the same. How much would you rate the session? Between 1 to 5, 5 being the highest.
Wow, what instant dopamine, buddy. Cool. They're the fastest feedback I've ever seen. Adit, you know how to increase CSAT?
How to increase CSAT?
So
no,
all these
enlighten me.
app reviews and all, people what do is whenever you have a happy experience, just plug in your review wala thing. So that is the way you increase your thing. So I was about to say certain things which could have increased these ratings more towards high.
Thanks for voting, everyone. We are glad that most of you liked the session and got to learn something new and exciting today. If you're interested in staying up to date with more such learning opportunities, consider joining our WhatsApp community, which is a safe space for all product enthusiasts, where we share opportunities, resources, and also indulge in some peer learning. I'm sharing the link for the same in the chat box. Would love to see you all there. And I hope this conversation today helped you navigate and avoid the mistakes that were discussed. To save yourself from making more such mistakes, you can take a super fun test that will assess you on the 6 skills every product manager must have, as Aditya mentioned. Post the test, you'll receive a detailed skill report that will help you identify your strengths and weaknesses More than 30,000 product managers have already taken the test. You can read more about it and also try out the test for yourself. I am posting the link for the same in the chat box. And yeah, over to you now, Aditya and Himanshu. Let's get on to those questions.
The questions would be coming in the chat, right? I'm just quickly going through some of the previous messages as well. I'll pick some and throw it over to Himanshu.
Should I just skim questions and figure out whatever I want to?
You can go ahead. Yes.
Let me just go and check some early ones. What do you think is a common mistake that product managers make? I think we have covered this time. Okay. Being product centric and not knowing, I think it's not a question. What additional perks if you can do CA, PM, and what about MBA in project management? Didn't understand this question. Adit, is it for you guys, Appraise? What additional perks?
That is a question for us. I'll take it up towards the end.
Okay.
There's a question from Wasim Rahman, 12.4. Do you have like a defined way to become a PM, like a course or a degree? How do you see the process to becoming a PM from a student perspective? I'd like to take that, if you don't mind. So, if you asked this question 10 years ago, even like Himanshu mentioned, there wasn't, a structured path or a structured approach to becoming a product manager. So a lot of exploration was done by individuals, and eventually a lot of these individuals started crystallizing and summarizing the individual paths that they had taken to reach the goal of becoming a product manager, right? What has happened is, after a few years, it became clearer what these paths are. Okay, there are key patterns that emerge with regards to all of these behaviors. But what has happened is there is an abundance of content online now. There is a lot of material written by a lot of people with varying levels of product management experience. So you also have, let's say, a Shreyas Doshi, who's been a product manager for a long time and has gained mastery and expertise of his craft, talking about his stuff. And then there is also someone who is probably 1.5 year, 2 year into their journey, documenting their own thoughts, right? There is a lot of volume, and B, there is a lot of variance in the quality of the volume of the work that is out there. So whenever one reaches a scenario like this, it is often important that there arises someone who is able to make sense, separate the wheat from the chaff, right? You can learn almost everything in the world by yourself alone, by reading books, by reading different articles, and that can be a unique journey. But I think what most people are looking at is to find the shortest, fastest path to that. So one of the solutions to that is the course that Appraised conducts. It's called Career Accelerated Plan. As the name suggests, it's to help people who have already made some headway into product management go the full distance and actually get a product job. So it is a 16-week program. More details are on the website. I don't mean to make this sound like a pitch, but essentially, are there defined paths? Yes. Our program CAP is one of them. There are other offerings as well. You should explore them, weigh out the pros and cons, and choose the one that best suits your needs. There's a question by Preeti called asking us what is
I think Sarthak, there are a few folks who have raised their hand. Aris, can you unmute them? Let's just hear them out. Sarthak was the one who started. Or let me just read out his question. So Sarthak, yeah.
You can ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, my question is also in the chat. It's been around 4 or 5 months since I joined the company and as an APM itself, and then it's my first time working as well. So there are these sessions, jo hota hai, with the senior manager and the CTO and all, half an hour session every week, and I don't know what to do. Usually I go and blank out. Mostly I give updates, but I don't think that's the best way to go about it, because I can give updates in any stand-up meeting or team meeting as well. But these one-on-ones, I still haven't figured out what is the best way to leverage this in order to know.
So if these are not reviews, so you should definitely talk about your ambitions. You should talk about what you aspire to become. So what happens is, so as I look forward, as I look back and see certain things, most of the time I don't even know the ambition of early PMs in my team. It's good to know the ambition of people, good to know who are more hungry for more stuff and all. Once I've identified those people, there are a lot of work which needs to be given. Work is not left. So just be open, available for people to see you, to create. So there's a concept called create your luck base. So you can increase your luck base by being more available and just saying out loud. The thing is, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. You have to keep on asking things and all. There are a lot more. They are definitely be overwhelmed by a lot of meetings, sort of stuff and all. So just being there, talking about yourself and uh, talk about your aspirations, how your journey will look like in 2 years, 3 years down the line is something which should be really helpful to you. Or you can definitely ask what additional things you need to do to reach over there in the shortest time possible. Just be more greedy. As I said, Besharam, you need to be Besharam as a PM or to be successful in life in general.
So follow-up question to that. Mostly in the career, what I see is at least early stage, there's just features that the senior manager decides, okay, this is the roadmap, and if you agree, take these items up, and it's all about writing a PRD and getting it executed. Is that all about it, or is there anything else as an APN can do other than just writing PRD and telling all that analytics stuff?
It's definitely not a PM job. I think you're doing something else. So PM job is about figuring out the problems. If you're not aligned by those things which your, I would say, manager or something has, don't do it. You need to understand the why of it. They need to lead by context. The why of it, why they're doing, why it should be beneficial for the consumer, why it will be beneficial for the company. That needs to be. Once it is aligned for you, once you are sure about those things, then only you can came up with certain solution on it, and you can align your team to work on this thing. And until you have not done that thing, you're just a program manager. You're not a product manager, buddy.
Yeah.
Hamid, you can start. Ask your question.
Hey, thanks. Hello, everyone. First of all, Himanshu, it's a great pleasure to see you here because I follow you on LinkedIn for maybe a couple of years since the time you have moved to Zomato.
Thank you, Hanu.
So thanks, Appraise, for giving me this opportunity. Himanshu, I heard an interesting fact from you that there are 3 kinds of mistakes. I'm more interested in the second mistake, that is a strategic mistake, because I'm also into product management for 5 years precisely. So you must be understanding, being in a middle level career step. If you have made a strategic mistake, I have 2 questions on that. That one, that how can you, handle the damage if possible at all? And the second thing is, how can you avoid, like, are there any steps or any checkpoints which you can keep in mind while making the second strategic decision, or that ways?
The strategic mistakes, Hanit, are also the ones which are very difficult to make also. I'll tell you why. Because any kind of strategic nature, I believe you'll have buy-ins from multiple teams. You will have buy-ins from your leadership also. So once you've aligned to a particular problem statement, once you align to a certain thought, you need to check with multiple peoples. Because any kind of strategic shift takes a lot of time. It also takes approval from different parties altogether. So it's good to share your thoughts with multiple people over a simple chai, coffee, tea. So you'll get a lot of, I would say, good or bad, I would say, I would say, sign off from these people to understand things, whether you're going in the right direction or not. If you think the 4 out of 5 people have said it doesn't going to work, you still have a lot of, I would say, confidence on that particular thing. Just figure out a person who can help you give the right advice on that front. It also depends on how closely you're working with leadership teams and all. So maybe in the mid-career level, I believe you will have a weekly sync with your CPO or something like that. So I think in a side window, you can have all these kind of chat for them to just understand about what are your thoughts.
Yeah, sorry, Himanshu, to bring this back again. I totally agree with you and in alignment with all these thoughts, but these are basically while you're making a decision. Let's suppose you have made a mistake already. I know strategic mistake is very, very difficult to recover from. But if there is scope, what could be the way to handle the damage if there is a possible? Maybe you can take a live example if you have any key points.
You have to accept it as soon as you realize it's a mistake. So
Okay.
any kind of things, what happens is on a thought process level, certain times certain things look quite appealing, but when you start going for the execution part, when you scratch more data around it, you see okay, maybe that's not the right approach. So whenever you have that kind of realization with the industry perspective or from the data point of view or from any other thing, you just need to blabber it to the team itself ki, I think it's not a good idea. Accepting your mistake is a good thing rather than investing more time on it. So you have to do by I understand by gracefully you mean you want ki you don't want to feel like ki you have done a wrong job or something like that, but don't feel of that nature at that point of time. Just figure out ki you have figured out these things and this could be the roadblocks and things will not happen. Just be really open. You cannot be right, you need to figure out that thing. Yeah, like I already mentioned sometime back here, product managers cannot be always right. You will only be right 2 out of 5 times or 3 out of 5 times or something. So don't understand that people are like gods and you have to be right every time. Just a human being, and there'll be a lot of mistakes which will happen. Accept it and move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Anshu, and thanks, Aditya.
We'll take one more question. We are already at one. So I think it would be best to wrap up. Himanshu also has a busy schedule. He's flying countries here and there. So I think it would be best to give him leave. There's one in the chat that I'd like to take, and then one person who's raised their hands, we can pick one. I saw Tanmay had asked a question. If the vision of the company is in conflict to the user interest, what should we prioritize as a product manager? I have a slightly hot take on this. So if you look at the history of sort of product management, and I'm not saying go back very deep into the FMCG era and those days or the 1970s, I'm talking about like, maybe 2005 to 2010 as a time frame. Lot of the people who got into product management either came from engineering or came from a business background. I mean, of course, there will be exceptions here and there, but largely these were the two influx zones. So what was very important at that point in time? So they already understood systems, they already understood business. What was very important at that point in time to internalize was the user side, right? So a lot of things got written about user centricity, user orientation, value, la la la. So and you see a lot of articles and things talking about the user, on Medium. But I think products exist in the context of a business. The most customer centric thing that you can do is to give everything away for free, and the most business savvy thing that you can do is to charge for everything. But the reality is that your business or your product is not going to be in either of the extremes. So you have to make money by doing something, and then whatever it is that you're making money from, how do you do that in the most user centric manner, or how do you ensure that all emotions and all sorts of fear, uncertainty and doubts are taken care of? That is probably where the user centricity needs to exist. One of the mistakes that I see some of the people who are going through our programs make early on is they start user first, which is great, but then they stick to it, and then they are not able to link the impact back to what the business is doing. And I call this the mistake of reading too many Medium articles, which sort of completely blinds you. And this is also increasingly happening because you don't have people coming in from business or engineering background moving into product management. There are a lot of other backgrounds as well who probably the classic Venn diagram, right? Like who probably don't understand the business side as much as they need to be able to drive impact. There is a beautiful graph that Lenny had put out, talking about what are the reasons for which product managers get promoted. And one of the topmost thing was to drive business impact.
Yeah.
So a lot of people drink the juice of user centricity too much, and my hot take here is that it matters, but not as much as a lot of the people think it does.
Adit, loved your response, man. Loved your response. I was recently reading some article related to this thing only. Like early, there's so much emphasis on ki PM is the voice of customer and everything. People don't understand it's the business which is running the show. You need to figure out. So business centricity is a lot more important than user. Of course, the kind of values you are giving to the consumer, not to be compromised, but business is something that needs to be paramount. That's running the complete show. Very well answered, Aditya. And guys, it's really important. You need to be in conflict with business.
So there will always be a conflict with business, but one needs to understand what is driving what.
Yeah.
The dog is not wagging the tail. The tail is not wagging the dog. I'm sorry. Okay, one last question. Anyone from the people who have raised their hands? And
Shivani, you may ask a question.
Yeah, hi. It was lovely being here, but my question was, so basically I have been an intern for intern in product management for the past 6 months. And then and after that, I've joined as a full-time as an APM in another organization. So where I've interned, it was basically a business to business thought process, wherein, we were talking about how to probably improve a product to cater multiple businesses. But right now I'm working for a business to user sort of organization. So I think the thought process on how do I change and how do I look at things from a different perspective, that is something I'm honestly struggling with. So do you have any 2 cents from all your experiences that you have wherein, I can actually mold my thinking to fit any place at any time? So that's my question basically.
So Shivani, what I've seen in my career is I've done more work on the B2C side of the thing, but whatever I've done in B2B, what I understand in B2B sort of things, the biggest client runs the show. Whatever requirements they have, you kind of do that thing. In the B2C side, the customer data point, customer pain point is something which will drive the complete product life cycle and all. So even your CEO doesn't say certain things if there is certain voice of customer which needs something else. So it's a more exploratory journey. It's kind of a journey where you need to talk to more, to slice and dice a lot of data. You have to talk to more of consumer to figure out your roadmap as compared to B2B. So it's more exploratory and extroverty in nature, which a lot of people enjoy. So that is the shift which you need to take here.
Got it.
Did I answer your question or anything else?
You did answer that again. Probably the explorative part is where I'll have to, jump in and take a call. So I think the rest is on me. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Aris, back to you.
Thank you so much, Aditya and Himanshu. Really, really love the session. And I think the audience was quite engaging as well. Before we wrap up the session, since we spoke about KISS, I think a lot of you know about KISS. Some of you might have already taken the test and some of you might be planning to do it. So we'd just love to know which category you fall to. Please shoot your votes in the poll. In the meantime, thank you so much, Himanshu, for taking out the time to join us for this session. It was lovely having you.
Thank you, guys. Enjoyed talking to you folks. Thank you, Aris. Thank you, Adit.
Thanks. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you got to learn something new and exciting today.